Hello, I'm Shervington Hennies, and this is another episode of The Recovery Show. This episode we will continue in vein of why repeat relapsing is an issue in recovery. But this episode takes a look at one of the chief enemies of your recovery. Okay, that's right. Your chief enemy. Okay, before I tell you, how well do you know you? You got it. You can be your chief enemy in recovery. And to address this in a very comprehensive way, we're going to have to split it into two parts. The first part, however, is something that you can't really get away from because it defines who you are in many ways. Drum roll. Are you ready? Your personality and its many traits and characteristics. That's right. You heard me right. Your personality can be your chief enemy in recovery with repeating relapsing. Well, as you might be fully aware, your personality tends to work very subconscious to your conscious thoughts and rational thinking in many ways once the traits and characteristics have been conditioned and reinforced over time. So, I think it's a good point for us to take a look at what is personality and what are traits and characteristics that are unique to each and every one of us, even if you're one of a twin. You will still have personality, traits, and characteristics that are distinct and unique to you, even if you're part of a pair of twins. So, in looking at theories of personalities, you would think that all of the very distinguished and eminent psychologists and psychiatrists and all the people who have studied in-depth personalities, that it would have arrived at a unique and one comprehensive definition as to personality. No, that is not so. For every school of thought, there's a distinct and clear hypotheses and philosophies and theories, more so theories, about personality. But, as I said, to set the stage for this episode, let's take a look at what is personality. Personality is a pattern of relatively unique characteristics and permanent traits that give both consistency and individuality to a person's behavior. Wow. So, your personality speaks to the consistency of actions and behavior, which are all rooted in a mindset and a set of schemas, as we would say, and mindsets that promotes those behavior over time, relatively permanent and consistent, that are unique and defines you as an individual. So, what then are traits? So if we're saying that your personality traits, and those traits, there are some characteristics that are unique to you that makes you an individual and unique in so many ways, the way you behave over time and in different situations. You can be almost expected to behave a certain way with some amount of consistency. So right away we should be thinking, then if those have not been addressed in treatment and with relapse prevention, the likelihood that you are going to be able to see those blind spots because of the subconscious way in which the consistency of the uniqueness of your traits and characteristics show up and causes you to return to old ways of thinking and hence behaviors. So, when we talk about personality traits, traits contribute to individual differences in behavior, consistency of behavior over time, and stability of behavior across situations. Those are traits according to Theories of Personality by Feist and Rogers, published by McGraw-Hill Education, the 9th edition. And further, traits may be unique, common to some groups, or shared by entire species, but their pattern is different for each individual. Thus, each person, though like others in some ways, has a unique personality. When we speak about characteristics of a personality, characteristics according to Feist and Roberts in Theories of Personalities, characteristics are unique qualities of an individual that include such attributes as temperament, physique, and intelligence. So those characteristics can make the traits be further defined and unique to make that an individual personality characteristics and traits. But I'm not here to speak truly about the traits and the personality characteristics, because in and of themselves, personality traits and characteristics aren't all that bad or evil, because, as I said, there could be your enemy, your personality. What I'm really talking about are personality disorders. Personality disorders. Those can be oftentimes lingering just beneath the surface and co-occurring, or for a co or dual diagnosis when there is a substance use disorder or other forms of mental illnesses. Personality disorders can play a dramatic and significant role in repeat relapsing. Oftentimes, because they're not spoken about enough, those that are put forward in the DSM-5, they're not even considered in treatment, and as such, left unattended and causes relapse. So, since we all have personalities and we all have traits and characteristics that defines and set to consistencies and patterns that are unique and define our individuality and our personality, the potential for all of us to have personality disorders. So, when we talk about personality disorders, the DSM put forward that there are 10 in 3 clusters. And the 3 clusters are Cluster A, Cluster B, and Cluster C. And the way they are grouped together in clusters is by some of their similarity in presenting attributes and characteristics. So, for example, Cluster A is referred to as the odd eccentric cluster, and it is made up of 3 personality disorders. There is paranoid personality disorder, schizoid personality disorder, and schizotypal personality disorder. The 3 of them make up Cluster A, and these personality disorders, the common feature of the 3 in this cluster are social awkwardness and social withdrawal. These disorders are dominated by distorted thinking. So, right away, we can see that if a person with a substance use disorder or any addictive behavioral or impulsivity or compulsivity predisposition, in addition to one of these 3 disorders that is predominantly dominated by distorted thinking, we can see how the stage can be set for repeat relapsing. And thus, it is your potential worst enemy in your recovery. So, a quick overview of these 3 personality disorders would be that the paranoid personality disorder is characterized by a pervasive distrust and suspiciousness of other people. You're getting the picture now. If you are a paranoid person, or you have a paranoid personality disorder, or you have the traits of someone who's paranoid, people with this disorder assumes that others are out to harm them, take advantage of them, or humiliate them in some way. They put a lot of effort into protecting themselves and keeping their distance from others. So that would be 2 criteria that, if that is showing up consistently over time in different situations for a person, we can safely say that the person have that particular personality trait and unique characteristics that lends itself to distorted thinking. And if it is impacting on various facets or areas of the person's life, and causing distress and conflict, then we can say the person may have a mild, moderate, or severe personality, a paranoid personality disorder. Now, they are known to preemptively attack others whom they feel threatened by. They tend to hold grudges and display pathological jealousy. Distorted thinking, when evident, will make it very difficult or challenging to work with someone to bring about some behavioral change who've got paranoid personality disorder. And the word paranoid here, with the cluster that has the other two traits that has their root word as schizotypal and schizoid personality disorder, these would be some of the traits that will show up, or some of the things that will be presenting for someone with schizophrenia. But it should not be confused that the person is schizophrenic or has schizophrenia. So moving on to schizoid personality disorder. A person with schizoid personality disorder is characterized by pervasive pattern of social detachment and a restricted range of emotional expression. For these reasons, people with this disorder tend to be socially isolated. They don't seem to seek out or enjoy close relationships. They almost always choose solitary activities and seem to take a little pleasure in life. These loners, and I chuckle here because I used to pride myself at being a loner. These loners often prefer mechanical or abstract activities that involve little human interaction and appear indifferent to both criticism and praise. Emotionally, they seem aloft, detached, and cold. They may be oblivious to social nuances and social cues, causing them to appear socially inept and superficial. Finally, their restricted emotional range and failure to reciprocate gestures of facial expression, such as a smile or a nod agreement, causes them to appear rather dull, bland, or inactive. The good thing about this disorder, if there is a good thing about it, is that it is rare. However, paranoid personality disorder, which, when evident, on the other hand, this perception of environment include reading other people, thinking that what they're saying, though it may be harmless, to be of an ulterior motive of some sort. For these reasons, they do not confide in others and do not allow themselves to develop close relationships. And finally, for the paranoid personality disorder, their emotional life tends to be dominated by distrust and hostility. So right away, we can see that even though this person might have gone through a course of treatment and probably have a relapse prevention plan, the fact that they are not, by their personality trait, trusting of others, we can see how that can lead to repeat relapses because they're not going to trust what it is they have said they will embrace and enact to bring about behavioral change, starting with their way of thinking. So, finally, in the cluster A, we have schizotypal personality disorder. Persons with schizotypal personality disorder are characterized by a pervasive pattern of social and interpersonal limitations. They experience acute discomfort in social settings and have a reduced capacity for close relationships. For these reasons, they tend to be socially isolated, reserved, and distant. I'm not ashamed to admit that I had to work on certain traits, personality traits, that would have presented itself as being socially isolating and having discomfort with social settings. And that is because of my self-concept, self-worth, and a case of serious low self-esteem at one point in my life. Excuse me. But that I have addressed and constantly monitor myself whenever I find myself withdrawing from others or making a choice to be isolated from others as a way of coping with life situations, as against reaching out for connection that fosters being sociable and embracing of relationships. So, when we take a look at the first three disorders in personality disorder in terms of the cluster A, according to the DSM-5, which put forward that there are 10 personality disorders, and cluster A has 3: paranoid personality disorder, schizoid, and schizotypal personality disorder. So that's it for this episode. We will take a look at the other cluster, which is cluster B, that is made up of antisocial personality disorder, histrionic personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, and borderline personality disorder. We will explore that in our next episode. Until then, do continue to take care of yourself. Do your best to work with those traits that may be the reason for your repeat relapsing, if that is something that you're working on. Remember, you can get more information at the brand new changeclinic.org portal that will then give you access to register either for free or any of the other 3 levels of subscription for ongoing mental wellness, care, support, and the new virtual spa experience. See you soon. Bye for now. Namaste. I'm Shervington Hannes, And this was The Recovery Show.